Hello guys, I'm back. My name is Jeferson Costa. I'm a chemical process engineer with expertise in plant design, and today I will talk about how is to work under pressure in plant design. And if you don't know me yet, I share my experience in the internet for the last years. You can find more about me in my website jeffersoncosta.com, and on May we start a workshop talking about what you must know to work with plant design. So you can find the link to subscribe for free, and it is a 100% online event in the description of this video. And today I decide to talk about this topic. It's not strictly related to the plant design in itself, calculations and the standards and etc. But it's something that is very important to know, and I will share with you my experience this week. Especially this week I am under a lot of pressure, and I will share with you how I deal with that. Every person has its own kind of behavior, but I will share the way that I deal with that, and eventually you will get some insights about that, okay? And as I am from Brazil, so if you can share with me where are you from, it is very nice, because this way I can evaluate, I can know how far my message reached in the world. I have students from Canada, India, Australia, and in Europe, Italy, Germany, and Africa, also Nigeria, South Africa, and almost everywhere in the world. But for me, it's very important to know for you that is watching to this live session for the first time. So let me give you some background to understand what are the challenges that I'm facing in this week, and that can apply to you when you are working with plant design. When we start a project, usually when we talk, currently I work in an energy company, and this energy company do some kind of agreements or sells its service for other companies. So how we get new projects? We get new projects based on the business department dealing with customers, and this way they do agreements, and the engineering team is responsible for developing the project. It's something like this, and every company is like this, more or less like this way. If you are in a bigger company, you work in the engineering team, what happens is that you will be very far, as much as the company is bigger, you will be more and more far away from the business team. However, thank you for being here, sailors from Egypt. And when the company is getting smaller, the engineering team will have more contact with the business team. So this is the way that happens. So the business teams, based on the portfolio of the company, are responsible for finding customers, and once they get the customers, they required some documentation, so the project development to the engineering team. So this is the way that we work. But what happens is that sometimes what the business teams sells to the customer, or what the expectation of the business teams is not do not follow the time that are needed to develop projects. So this is common in some environments, and it is a challenge to face that without losing your point of view, without losing the your, like, how can I say that, without losing the kindness to talk to people and without losing your reason. This is the challenge that you must have when you are when we are working in projects or working with people. This is the challenge that we have every day when we work with people. And what happens is that sometimes the schedule that is defined in business is different from the schedule that are needed to develop a project. So you need, let's say, 2 weeks for develop a heating material balance, but because of the business issues, the time you require to do that is decreased, although it should not be this way. And depending on as far as the higher of people, they have more power to push you. Of course, it's common and it's not an issue by itself, but you need to know how to deal with that, not only from the higher in the hierarchy, but also with people that is eventually below you. And it is some of the issues that I'm facing right now. We need to, I spend all my week doing some deliverables for a project, and we had a follow-up these days, and one of the directors was very stressed because the dealing of the schedule was not at his expectation, and we need to know how to solve that in order to not give complaints. And my point here is that although I think that the point here is to summarize is don't try to be the person with that is right. Okay, it's not the way that you should deal in any kind of situation in your job. It is the way that I try my best. Sometimes I fail to do that, but don't try to be the person that is right in a situation. How is it? In many ways, in many situations, you know that you are correct, and for instance, the schedule given to me to do this work was very tight, and I am this job to do, and I have any others to participate. So every time that I am in in another activity, I am not able to expend time in the activity that is the expectation of the director. And I could use this as an excuse, and it is a true excuse, it doesn't matter for him. It doesn't matter because he needs to deal with the customer, and the customer it's not worried if we have many employees, few employees, if we will do this by audio engineering, if we are contract outside, and etc. So that is not the direct problem. It's my problem to handle this in a way that I can achieve all the expectations, and that is a challenge. And when we are faced about that, so I need to handle that. So I stop right now to do this live session, but 6:30 a.m. morning here in Brazil, it's Saturday here, I start working. I already received a WhatsApp talking to me about this project, and I just finished, stopped or paused this to talk to you these few words, okay? So what is the way that I deal with this in this specific kind of situation? Is silence. If you don't have the solution, you, in my way, the way I think is to be in silence. And if people is stressed with you, keep in silence. Don't try to egg about something that is you cannot solve. Okay, so I understand his point of view, and I have my work to do, and I'm doing my best. So it doesn't matter also to say that I'm doing my best for him or for her, because in the end, what it matters is the delivery. And this is there are some other kinds of situations I was talking about with a friend yesterday about project, how to deal with people, and he talked to me that there was a time that he needed to he knew that he was right, and he suggested to add some equipment to the design, but the senior engineer reject that and take over that from the project, and now we have some issues in the operations. And he asked me, Jeff, how could you deal with that? What your suggestion? So that's also giving some feedbacks to record this live session with you. Okay. So when we are talking about design, and now talking about design, and what I recommend you to do is first of all is to have the basis for your decision. What I mean by that, and this is something that I'm doing in this project also, and that's why I take more time to deliver to develop my deliverables than as expected. When you say that something will cost much, so how much, you need to have the basis for that. For instance, I have a pump here, and I calculating the recirculation flow of the pump, and that will lead to a power. So if that is 200 kilowatts per hour of power consumption, I need to justify that, and I cannot just say that is 200 and do not have any kind of support. And my support in this way is the heat and material balance. If I inform to business that pump costs, for instance, $1,000, I need to support that based on a quotation, a real quotation for that, or an estimation based on others' old quotation. So this is the way that you should deal with this kind of thing. But sometimes the business, it's not worried about that. What they need are numbers, and you cannot fabricate the numbers. You cannot fabricate the numbers because if something gets wrong, you will be asked for what are your sources, and if you don't have your sources, it will be worse than if you have not informed any value. Okay. So another thing that I would like to point out is listen to people. And sorry guys, because I didn't prepare this live session. Okay, it was something that is it's pushing me right now, and I would like to share with you. I am not so sure if I will let this live session available, because it's not a subject that interests too much people, and my commitment is to be here with you every Saturday and share a little bit of my experience to you in order that you can improve your chemical process engineering and plant design. So if you have any question related to that, you feel free to use the chat to share with me, and I will do my best to answer those questions. Okay. And so talking about dealing with people, it's very, very important when you are developing a new project, especially if you have operations in the company, is to talk to operations, because they will have a lot of information that us that are in the office are not aware of. What I mean by that, I work with the plan design in the office, doing plan design in the office, but I have also some activities, commissioning startup activities. And before starting a new project, what is recommended is that you go to the facility if we are talking about revamping, or if we are talking about a debottlenecking, or eventually if we are talking a new business for a customer. Talking with people that will use that system, that process. And if it is operations, talk to operations, verify what are their needs, and also verify what kind of changes they face in the operations, because this way you will be able to adapt better the product that you need to issue to them. And interesting thing is that much of time, or sometimes the companies don't do that. When we are in the design, we know the fundamentals, we understand the chemical process engineering, and sometimes we think that we understand that better than who does the operation of the plant. And the truth is that the calculations is very, very important, but what happens in the field not necessarily is the same what happens in the calculation, because in the field we have many influences. We have the environment influence, we have the dynamics of the business. Sometimes the operation needs to increase the capacity of the plant too fast, or increase low or increase fast. Sometimes we need to produce 1,000 tons per day. The other day we need to increase or decrease, and etc. And the system has its when we do plan design, we think about the steady state conditions. So we believe that everything will be if the pump needs to run at 10 bar G at the discharge, it will be run at 10 bar G, and that is not the way that it happens in real life. What we have in real life is that we have variations, and there are some kinds of things that we are not able to predict in the process simulation software, and that happens. But why I'm talking to you about it? I'm talking to you about it because there was a project that we already have a similar system in the field, but for some reason the engineering team decided was needed to update or install a new system, and they ignored what was already installed, and they didn't talk to operations, and the things that was solved with the existing system was not considered for the new one. And this was a matter of having a good communication between the teams. Not only that, as I told you, this friend had not a discussion, but he was pushed to remove some equipment of the design, and because of that we are having so issues in the operations right now. And one of the way that he could deal with that is having the reference to support that those equipment was needed, and also the experience of operations. If he had listened to operations, he could have bring that knowledge to the project. In this way, try to convince the management and etc. to keep the equipment. But now you may be thinking, but he is the process engineer, and why he didn't keep his word and keep with the equipment, because he thought he was right. Because we have a lot of push, we have a lot of pushes related to cost, we have pushes related to schedule, and it is not, when we doing a project, it's not something that people will ask you to add a pump and you have the time that you need to do that. It's not the way that happens. Or we need to solve a problem and you have the money that you need to do that. It's not the way that happens in the real life. In the real life, people or companies want to reduce as much as possible the schedule, and sometimes they don't understand that it is not feasible, and sometimes the money available to solve something is not enough to solve the problem, but people is still keeping waiting or wanting to solve the problem, and that is kind of issues that we must deal in your job without losing our reason. And that's why we need to have the support. If we are looking for technologies, collect and reference as much as papers as you have. Or if you are doing your project based on standards, keep the paragraphs that's important to you, justify your decisions, or know the page, the code number and year where you are basing your decisions. Because this way, when someone asks you that that is not needed, or you can reduce the schedule, you are able to support, you are able to show that your decisions is made based on the right assumptions. And if they want to do that way, no problem, but you don't recommend that. This is the way that I do. As you can see, I seem to be a very calm person, and more often I am, but sometimes I get stressed with some issues that happens, and that is especially when I see that people insist on doing something that's not right in plan design. So I don't try to be the right person. What I do, I give my opinion. I register that by email, do some kind of small conclusion based on this subject. For instance, I will give you an example that is clear to you understand this kind of thing. We have equipment. Hi, Jonathan. Germany. I have relatives in Germany. Very nice. We have heat exchanger. We have a heat exchanger that is dealing with the corrosion issue because H2S. And what happens is that we have a H2S removal system, and if the H2S removal system was working properly, the amount of H2S to heat exchanger will be below what the standards recommends for the H2S service. When we are talking about H2S service, we have different material, we have more specific material, and if it is more specific, it means that it's more expensive than that normal material, to summarize. So I needed to develop or to add a new heat exchanger to the process, and there was a discussion if we needed to consider if it was H2S service or not, and although I was pushed to consider the more expensive material, I based it on the standard. So I verified the standard, I studied the standard, and I verified that if the H2S removal was working properly, there is no reason to have the H2S service in the heat material in the heat exchanger. And if the heat exchanger was having issues and it's leaking, it was not because a poor design. It was because it was considered that the amount of HOS that would reach the heat exchanger was under control, let's say this way. So I got some phrase or some tranches of the standard and said if we have this amount of HOS under this pressure, there is no need to be HOS service. If we increase the pressure, the amount of HOS is reduced, but you don't need to have HOS service. And so I did a summary and said in the end that based on those assumptions, the heat exchanger didn't need to be HOS service. But if the manager wants to buy a HOS service, now it is his problem, not my problem. What we need to do as chemical process engineer is have the basis to support our decisions. So that is very, very important that you understand that. But once you have the support once you have the resource to support your decision, don't try to have the final word and to insist in your point of view, because in a medium to a long term, you will have stress with people and you will make more enemies than friends, and that's not good for you, because who will support you, who support you in job, in your family, or in your relations with humans is your friends, not your enemies. So this is something that you must consider when someone, a colleague of yours or your boss says that you must do something, you don't agree with that. So find other resources why you don't agree with that. Expose your opinion, register that if possible by an email, depending on the context, right? Take care about that. And if he wants to keep with his decision, you proceed with that, is the way that I do. Of course, that I'm not talking anything related to injure people, to heavy hazard, or to comply with illegal. No, it's not about it that I'm talking about. I'm talking about sometimes the people wish something that are not needed, and to not stress yourself and to not stress your relationships. You can do that and just register the way that you think, because in the future, if something wrong happens, you can say that, or you don't need to say, but you will have registered that and you can at least defend yourself. Okay. And another thing is, although you have excuses to not do things or to avoid things, I avoid of giving excuses. I prefer to be in silence and recognize that I am wrong and keeping doing the work, because this way people will not defend you when you need to issue deliverables. Okay. And there is a quote that I hear him in Brazil. I'm not so sure if it has also in the other worlds, the other parts of the world. That is, it is better to keep silence and seems like a fool than speak and confirm the expectations. So what this means? When you are in silence, people can say a lot of things about you, but if you don't reply to them, they cannot confirm if they are wrong or not. So I like this quote a lot, and I do my best to apply it to my life. And when you you stop the discussion. You sometimes you get stressed, you get angry, you get upset. But when you relax your mind, you will see that you can find ways to solve that without arguing with people. And it doesn't matter if it is people above you or if it is under you, because remember that people that is under you, not under, below you, they are people also, and they eventually will help you a lot in your career. Just to have you give you some references, my first job, I get my first job because the plain design world is very, very small. And when I shift from my first job to the second, it was because an indication of my one friend of I had in the company. And the current position that I have is because I had a long relationship with the manager, and although we are not close friends, they didn't know about my experience, about my behavior, and etc. So this is the easiest way to get another position, is having support of other people. Okay, guys. So I talked about some, I didn't follow a specific flow of thoughts, but let me try to summarize here. When you are in plan design, you will face some stressful situation. And one of those stress situations is related to the cost of the project and also the schedule of the project. And sometimes it will be easy to solve this, sometimes it's not, especially when the business has some expectations that do not reflect what it is possible to do. For instance, I need to install a new unit and business wants to have the numbers, a new unit that was not used in the company for any reason, and this business expects to have a number in 2 weeks. And when we are doing plan design, we need to know the raw material, we need to know the product specification, and there are many equipments that are not the responsibilities of the design team to issue. So we need to get in touch with the vendors, and the vendors has their own time to give the answers. So this kind of expectations can create a conflict between the design team and the business team. If you are in a big company, eventually you will not, this kind of conflict will not reach you, because we will have some others people to do this kind of filter. For instance, will be the engineering director, will be the engineering manager, there will be the job leader, and we will have you, the chemical process engineer. But once the company is decreasing in size, when we are going to a small company, the relationship between the design team, eventually the chemical process engineer, and the business team will be closer. And eventually the director of the business team will have meetings with you to discuss the schedule and the costs of the project, and they will push you as much as possible because they don't have the understanding of the engineering. He or her has the understanding of the business, and they are worried about closing the deal. And we are worried, in the design, we are worried to deliver a system that is suitable to operate, that will comply with the requirements and with including customer requirements, quality and safety, and etc. And this takes time to be developed. But you, as let's say, as the weaker part, you cannot through that in a meeting. You are not recommended to confront people that has more power than you. What you can do is depending on the kind of requirements that you are being asked for, you can agree with them and to do your best to deliver that as much as possible, or you can recognize that the time is limited and you need more resources. That is something that you can argue, but try to avoid giving complaints. I cannot do that because I don't have time. I need to be involved in too many activities. Don't treat this way. You can to be able the other way to face this is, I need to do this way, but to be able to do that, I need more resources to support me. So you take out the perspective of the excuses, and you add a perspective for the solution. So that is the way that I do things. And another thing is that when you are dealing with projects, talk as much as possible with operations, especially if you are working with projects for operations. And these days, I have another meeting and with maintenance and operations, and they was not too much satisfied with another discipline, because the discipline did some definitions about a system and didn't ask for the needs of the maintenance and of the operations, and because of that they was reluctant to understand the needs of this discipline. So this is not the way that I do. The way that I do is, I have a problem, I talk to people that face the problem, try to understand what are their needs, and this way try to build a solution that meets their needs. And of course that you will have a lot of suggestions, you will have a lot of requirements, but in plan design we work with scope. So if the scope is well defined, you will have the resources that you need to develop your engineering deliverables, the heat and material balance, the process simulation, pipe instrumentation diagram, and etc. And if something changes during this process, what is recommended is to take notes and register that as a change management of changes. And this way you will be able to support you if the cost increases, if the schedule increases, and this is the way that I recommend you to do in your work. Okay, guys? Akshay, nice to have you here. Thanks a lot for being here. And guys, if you have questions, let me know. As I told you, I was working since 6:30 a.m. here in Brazil. I just stopped to do this live session to you, and now I will return to my job, because Saturday and Sunday I need to deliver these. I need to issue these deliverables at any cost. At any cost is just it's not that way, right? But I need to deliver these deliverables. I need to develop these deliverables for the business this weekend. Okay, any question? Just to remind you, I have a workshop, the Chemical Process Engineer Journey. It's for free to register. It will be 100% online, and you can and in this workshop, I will talk to you about what you must know to work with plan design. And I will talk about the technical issues related to that, and also about the market, the job market. So I will share with you what the companies want from you, and how you can prepare yourself for that. So this is it, guys. I hope you like this live session, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye-bye.